Sorry I am late. I have been trying to get a meeting with Fred Swan of the HS to discuss the Dome homes.
Well, we are outside of the Wilson Building, City Hall in D.C. There is a hearing on the Human Services budget. Guess who is inside?
Baby boy. Your boy. Fred Swan is inside. DC government sure could use Laura and Clarence. DHS has a new guy who sounds like me.
That is true, Al. He sounds like you, and if he thinks like you, we are in trouble. He better get his priorities in order.
Very funny, Eric. Let us leave it up to our audience to measure the intelligence of all this. I mean, we had a dynamite team in place and the new administration breaks it up.
Yeah, we had our differences with Laura and Clarence, but their heart was good and they delivered. I miss Tommy Wells too, he really cared for us from the council bench.
Well, don't count Jim Graham short. He is short and I look him dead in his eye and I see truth. Jim Graham is my man. He will get the matter straight. Let us see.
But it is based on the mayor's priorities that you know and have heard, I'm sure, many times as 4 priorities. But we're trying to move more families into self-sufficiency by addressing their unique needs. We're moving additional residents into permanent housing. We're concentrating on services integration and cross-systems work because we do not operate the Department of Human Services in isolation. Creatively using our programs to prevent the need for other services, especially preventing the need for child welfare and the involvement of our clients in the criminal and juvenile justice systems, and reinvesting our limited resources into better outcomes because we know that the good outcomes are a lot cheaper in the long run than the bad outcomes that so often we've seen in the past. Just to get to some of the big issues that we've heard so much about today, we are trying to preserve as much of the homeless continuum as possible. For 2011, our current fiscal year was funded with local appropriation dollars, a lot of one-time federal funding, especially for permanent supportive housing, and one-time federal TANF emergency contingency funds. Many of those funds are no longer available, and to make up for that loss, the mayor has recommended an increase of $14 million in local funds. We'll also spend about $2 million less in permanent supportive housing case management. This is a program efficiency rather than a cut. And we're expecting to move about $4 million of our rental subsidy cost into permanent supportive housing programs from local DHS funds to either federal housing choice vouchers or local rental supplement programs. That way we avoid using local dollars and transfer some of those costs to the federal government. Now, it's been widely publicized that the Department of Human Services will lose approximately $26.7 million in this one-time federal funding. With the additional funds that we've received in the mayor's proposed budgets, we still face a shortfall that we've projected, and in many of the original papers we submitted was $20.5 million, and that's what you've been hearing all day is a $20 million shortfall. We think, especially with the reduction in program efficiencies, we can comfortably say that that shortfall is $18.5 million. So we've been looking at ways to modify or reduce that hit, but it's still $18.5 million is what we feel is the shortfall in the housing programs. We don't know exactly where those shortfalls would hit. We want to really bring a lot more of our stakeholders into the process. Today we heard so much and got some additional guidance. But even though we don't know exactly where those shortfalls would come, we do know that there are certain programs that are either mandatory or even based on today's testimony and other input, we feel have the highest priority. Certainly the high priority of the hypothermia shelter for all of our citizens is the a very important part of what we're trying to maintain. We're also trying to prioritize housing for homeless families, including temporary and domestic violence shelters, site-based transitional housing, and the operation of the Virginia Williams Family Resource Center. Housing programs where, and finally, housing programs where clients receive rental subsidies, such as in the permanent supportive housing programs. Now, if those were the programs that we all finally agree on are the priorities, that means that the biggest cuts will come in the shelters that operate during the non-hypothermia season, especially for single adults. So that's with that type of prioritization, we would expect that the total funding available under the proposed budget is $58.8 million. The total funding, the total funding to meet the priorities that I just described is $58.8 million. The total funding in the budget is only $59.4, only $600,000 left for the rest of the continuum. So if we were to, again, fully fund the priority areas, the kinds of cuts that we would be seeing would be the D.C. General family shelter capacity could, outside of hypothermia season, would be cut about $7.1 million. The operation of the shelter for single homeless adults outside of the hypothermia season, approximately $10.3 million. Transportation services outside of the hypothermia season, $1.1 million. Outreach outside of hypothermia, approximately $200,000. In ancillary services such as feeding programs, medical clinics, etc., for about $400,000. And Chairman Graham, you asked for is clear of an identification of where the cuts would have to come. And again, these aren't cut or set in steel, but they these, if we funded the highest priority programs, these are what would be left.
Wow, is he serious? How did we get here? Sounds like everyone will be forced out of shelters. That is crazy.
Who is this guy? He does sound like Al. Did he bring this plan with him from wherever? It sucks. This sucks.
Brenda, I take offense to anything that you say to tie me into this guy. I am about solutions. He has presented none.
Al. He really pissed me off. Do not mess with me now or I will tie you up with that guy.
Hold on. Hold on. The fight is not amongst us. Remain calm.
This is a very unusual experience for me because I've been on this council for 13 years now. And I want to say I appreciate, I know you've pressed for more specific information, particularly insofar as the homeless budget. And I see that here and I appreciate it. But I've never before, been confronted with a budget that had so many likely things that you're going to do. This is an alien concept to me, I got to say to you. Even though as I think it through, I begin to have a little hesitancy about it also. But the fact of the matter is that we're called upon as the Council of the District of Columbia to approve a budget. And in the process of approving a budget, I got to know what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. And so I'm not comfortable with presenting a budget to you or to the mayor that says, here's all this amorphous information, figure out what you want to do with it. And so on page 3 of your testimony, when you say some likely priorities have been identified, I don't know what that means. I mean, we've either got to make the spending decisions or not make spending decisions. And that's the only way I know how to do a budget. We don't have budgets in the District of Columbia, at least none that I have been part of, where we turn over that type of discretion to the executive. Now, what the executive does once they get the budget, I also have that experience. But at least insofar as the process of approval for the council of a budget, it is definite.
In terms of some of the what if kinds of questions, I guess, Mr. Burns, if we programs that may not be funded include what does that mean? May not be.
The final decisions have not been made as to how based on whatever resources we receive and what we have in the mayor's budget, we have a bottom line, but it wasn't specified that we would cut this program or services to this group of people.
Well, how can this council make a decision with that kind of situation? Let me ask you a question. The $59 million, do you mean that these programs don't fit into the $59 million?
That's right, except for $600,000.
Well, so it's not a maybe, right? It's not a maybe, Mr. Graham. It's not a maybe. This council has to look at this and say that the General Family Shelter is going to be closed during non-hypothermia year. That's outrageous. Virginia Williams is already overcrowded. You can't get in there. People are sleeping in open space with kids all over the place trying to get some sleep in, etc. I guess it means also that the shelter program, such as the one at 301 East and in Ward 8, we cut. How many people will be affected if we were to cut $7.1 million out of the General Family Shelter?
For that particular item, there will be about that will represent about 150 shelter slots units per families beyond hypothermia season.
How many single homeless adults will be cut out be put on the streets?
That would represent about 1,200 shelter beds.
Tell Ms. Graham, this is incredible. I know you ought to make those decisions. I'm just expressing, my, well, I would say outrage, but it's just incredible. The 1,200 people, when we put on the street after the hypothermia season next year, we don't have enough shelter beds now. But I'm just making note of that. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Byrne, I would suggest in future, I know Mr. Graham will want this, when you give us a number like 10.3, let us know the specific human impact in terms of numbers of families, number of children, etc. So that bothers me.
This is all well and good, but no one has solutions.
Well, the dome homes can help. If everyone is in the street, we can use the domes as resource centers, shower and toilet stations, emergency centers, case management stations.
Now that is a solution.
But right now it is time for revolution.
Baby girl, you are righteous. If their plan is to put us on the streets, let us claim our plot. Right now in front of City Hall.
Right on. Let us not take these cuts lying down.
Revolution it is. If they won't listen to solutions and won't talk solutions, then let us open the floodgates and let all the homeless sleep in front of City Hall. Take a good look at the future.
This is the alternative that the mayor's proposing.
Daytime or nighttime, we will be all over the city, sleeping, panhandling, using the bathroom.
While buildings like this with beds and bathrooms.
Start by comparing the homeless budget for FY11 with the homeless budget for FY12. What was the total amount in this fiscal year of the homeless budget, including the federal funds that were made available to us?
11. I'm Christy Steele.
You have to speak into the microphone and you have to
Yes.
identify
I'm Christy
yourself.
Steele, and I'm the Agency Fiscal Officer for
All
the
right,
Department of Human Services. Thank you, Chairman Graham. The entire homeless budget for FY11 was $101 million, and in FY12 it is $82 million.
Okay, now let me just follow this for a minute. So we've gone from 101 million to 82 million. This is just the total homeless budget. Now in FY11, we had how much federal funding that we are going to lose in FY12?
That's the 26 million, approximately 26.7 million is broken down into two different categories.
Well, wait a minute, no, don't answer your question. Stay with my question.
Okay.
Okay. There's 26 million. Is the 101 million including the 26 million?
Yes, for this current fiscal year, FY11, yes.
Okay, just stay with me a minute. So we had 26 million. In the 101 million, there's 26 million of federal funds.
Yes.
Okay. Now in FY12, we don't have that 26 million, but we do have another addition, which the mayor has added 14 million. Is that right?
Yes.
So within the 82 million, we find 14 million new DC taxpayer dollars to support homelessness.
Yes.
Am I right? So if we were to deduct 26 million from 101 million, we would have, by my reckoning, $85 million in homeless budget. The difference between what we have as a total in FY11, if we take out the amount of the federal funding, that brings us to 85 million. So 101 less 26. Is that right?
No, 75.
Right, thank you. My elementary school teacher would be very unhappy with me right now. 75 million. So that if we were to add 14 million, such as what the mayor has done, that would bring us, by this calculation, to 90 million.
Approximately, yes.
89 million. Right? But you're telling us that the total budget for homelessness in FY12 is 82 million. So where is this 7 million? Have there been other cuts in the homeless budget in addition to the loss of the federal funding?
When you said the 7 million, I'm sorry.
Okay, let's try it again because I kind of had that elementary snafu there. We had 101 million in FY11. Okay, but within that was 26 million of federal funds.
Right.
We're not going to have the 26 million in
Right.
federal funds in FY12. So you deduct 26 million from 101 million and you come to 75, right?
Yes.
But then you add the mayor's initiative of an additional 14 million and you come to 89.
Yes.
Follow?
Yes.
Okay, but you are telling us that the total homeless budget for FY12 is but 82 million.
Yes.
So I've got 7 million here that is somewhere else, and it makes me wonder, were there additional cuts in the homeless budget beyond the loss of the federal funds?
There was a shift, and Christy may be better explaining it. There's a shift of some dollars.
That $4 million was also shifted out of DHS, so that
But I thought that was a gain.
No, that was taken out of DHS's budget, $4 million.
To pay for what? To pay for rent supplement?
Yes, that is correct.
So we've added $4 million to rent supplement.
It is the resources were taken out of DHS, and in return, there'll be federal vouchers that will be used for the housing. And Fred, you can go into the program side.
No, wait just a minute. Wait just a minute. You're going to lose $4 million.
That is correct.
In order to buy something at DCHA, right?
That is a shift of 175 clients from the Permanent Supportive Housing Program over to the LSRP program.
Which is a DCHA, which
Yes.
is the Housing Authority.
Yes.
So is the Housing Authority going to get $4 million out of the DHS budget?
I believe that's already been shifted out, and that reflects some of that $7 million difference that you speak of.
When was it shifted out?
I guess in budget preparation.
During the 12 budget preparation, it was shifted out of DHS.
And who decided to shift it out?
I believe that was the budget team in the mayor's office.
For $4 million, but $4 million, it would be, I mean, this has got to constitute some kind of reprogramming, which would be subject to the council's review. I never heard nothing about no $4 million being shifted to DCHA.
In the budget preparation, in terms of his approval, when she says shifted, it means in the budget preparation, $4 million that we would have otherwise spent in the permanent supportive housing program went into the LRSRP program.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
I said about $4 million of what we would have spent.
No, we're talking about FY12.
Yes.
We're talking about FY12.
Yes.
How have you, so you're telling me that the DCHA budget, as proposed by the mayor, has an additional $4 million for DCHA in their budget, which
Yes,
was
I believe
taken
so.
from DHS?
We don't know that for certain. We just know that DHS has been reduced by $4 million, and in return, in order to take care of that, we're giving federal vouchers and
Rent supplement.
Rent supplement.
But the rent supplement money is coming from the Housing Production Trust Fund. We have emptied the housing, you may not know about this, but the Housing Production Trust Fund has been emptied of $18 million in order to support rent supplement. And the housing choice vouchers, of course, it's a question of how many are available. We don't buy them. We don't buy them as such. So where did this $4 million go? You might not know the answer.
Right, and I don't, honestly, I don't know the answer exactly, but what it did was.
You have lost $4 million.
Right, but not lost services because of the vouchers that we're receiving, we're able to continue to house.
You're answering a question I'm not asking. Okay, I got that part. I'm just trying to figure out where the $4 million is, because by our mathematics, thank you very much, David Burns, we should have 89 million for homeless, and instead we only have 82 million. And you're telling me that part of the explanation for that is the loss of this 4 million. Now, where is the other 3 million?
2.7 would be for the rapid rehousing that will not continue in 12.
That will, pardon me?
Rapid rehousing at 2.7 million.
That we put 2.7 million. I thought rapid rehousing was eliminated for FY12.
That is correct.
And that's part of the reduction.
Oh, but rapid rehousing was in the FY11.
Yes.
Yes,
okay,
sir.
all right. So that explains then if we have to follow up on this 4 million, but that would explain the $7 million difference.
Right.
So the point is that we end up with a homeless budget of 82 million in FY12 when we had a homeless budget of 101 million in FY11, and that was a result of the loss of federal funds, somewhat compensated by $14 million of new funds from the mayor, and so we have a difference here of $19 million, give or take.
Does DHS have a system where it can use a computer to get information about what all services that the D.C. government is providing an individual?
No.
What are you going to do about it?
I don't know.
That's the honest answer. Somebody got to know at some point. Yeah. Because we may be spending $200,000-$300,000 on an individual when all the services are added up. And we don't know that. There's separation between DYRS, what they do, some of the services they provide, school system, getting services, and children. So I think the government and mayor has a responsibility to put together a team to figure out how we move into the 21st century in terms of technology. Your system now basically is a paper system. If you go in some of these case managers' offices and look at their files, I've looked at some of them. They're thick. And so I know you're not responsible for that.
No. I believe that Deborah Carroll has a little more background. There has been some work on this. I don't know what the exact solution is. Possibly she can address a portion.
Give me a quick answer on that because of my time running.
There are two initiatives going on. One is the document imaging system that the Income Maintenance Administration just recently developed, and we're scanning all of the documents in order to be able to accept an online application process and case management process.
How many documents do you think there are?
Right now, the estimate is somewhere around 27 million.
How long would it take you all to scan 27 million?
We're estimating about a year. We're using a contractor right now to scan the documents. I believe the contract is at least for 1 year, maybe 2.
So in the meantime, you use the system that you have?
Well, the actual document imaging system, there is the back file, the actual case record that you described. That's being scanned by the contractor, and then our staff have been trained to scan the documents as they come in. So all new documents are being scanned as they come in now.
How many pages of documents have been scanned by your staff?
I honestly don't know that number right now.
You get it?
We've been in operation, I guess, since January 31st. We did a gradual rollout of the training and implementation of the document imaging system. But certainly we can get that information for you.
Mr. Chairman, I've heard
that is
nothing
data we have.
but complaints about workers being able to scan this and see
It's
that
been challenging.
Well, it's been more than challenging.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we...
Wait a minute, Ms. Finish.
I'm sorry.
I get constant complaints by workers about having to do the scanning and then doing the intake of people who are there.
Hey DHS, here is a bright idea. Why not hire sharp homeless people like me to scan the documents?
I bet they are spending millions on that, and so many of us could get out of homelessness.
Hey DHS, why not save some budget money by investing in us? Like Clarence Carter used to say, let us stop warehousing homeless.
Okay, Jim Gray and Marion Barry, what do you think? We have presented 2 solutions, domes and scanning.
You know, we're under a time frames. The interim disability assistance program was also mentioned as an item of great concern. Again, this program has been suspended for new enrollees, and the payments to the current recipients is proposed to end on September 30th. We expect approximately 1,040 recipients to be remaining in that program as of September 30th. So that's how many people would have their checks cease at that time. We will, if that happens, and when that happens, continue to work with those individuals to try to get them onto the SSI and to provide whatever supportive and community services that we can refer them to. But it would be that hit of $270, I believe it is, a month for those remaining recipients.
When I came in, I wanted to give you a medal for endurance. I've been in a number of other meetings while you were holding forth here with some 65 witnesses. The number of witnesses indicate the severity of the problem. If it weren't severe, we would have maybe 5 or 10 people up here. I want to welcome you, Mr. Burns. This is your first appearance for this council. I want to thank you for agreeing to come to one of the most complex, difficult jobs, I think, in America. And I thank you for that. I know a number of questions that Mr. Graham has asked were decisions made before you got here. We recognize that. But I join Mr. Graham in these most likely things. And I start where Mr. Graham left off, about these housing, these federal vouchers. What vouchers are we talking about? I know some of them are veterans, I think about 75 of those. What vouchers are we talking about? Housing choice?
You're referring to the vouchers that we spoke of we'd be receiving?
No, that you would be giving people. There was somewhere in your statement about, Mr. Burns' statement about vouchers, housing choice vouchers. I want to know, I know the housing voucher program very well. But I just talk about the general subject. In terms of the housing choice vouchers, there, Mr. Graham, there are 26,000 people on the waiting list. We have about 10,000 vouchers. Turnover is about 400. My question is, how do you intend to get any people on the housing choice voucher program with that long waiting list and with a turnover of about 400?
Yeah, and just referring back to your question about the vouchers, what was alluded to was the 4 million shift or loss in our budget. We were able to receive vouchers that cover those costs so that we wouldn't have to take anybody out of housing.
Where did those vouchers come from?
From the Housing Authority. We haven't actually yet received them, but that's part of the plan.
Well, I don't think you're going to receive them because I said, and I used to chair the Committee on Housing, Community Development, I know all about that. There's some federal rules about that. You have to be on a waiting list. And that waiting list is so tight and secret that you got to go in order for it. You can't take X number of people. And, well, Mr. Graham, I just think we ought to just check that out, because that is, I don't believe it at all.
Let us return you to the testimony. We will chill in the dome home.
Not at all.
All right, this hearing on the FY12 budget of the Department of Human Services is now reconvened after a very brief recess. We now have the testimony of the acting director, but who is designated to be the permanent director and who has been nominated as such, David A. Burns. This is your first appearance, I suspect, before the council, certainly before this committee. And so we welcome you and we look forward to having your testimony. Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman Graham, members of the Committee on Human Services.
It's best that you put your papers to one side and pull the microphone up so that we hear every word.
Okay, very good. I'm pleased to appear before you tonight to discuss the Mayor's 2012 budget proposal. My testimony will try to hit the high points and the issues. You have a fuller written testimony plus a number of documents that we've already submitted. Our budget does continue our transformation from a program-centered budget into one where customers assume a greater role in their own plans and self-sufficiency, and that's one of the main reasons why I was called in here. And so we want to continue that transformation process. The budget's comprised of general funds, of course, federal grants, payments, a total of nearly $320 million, which is about a 1% increase over last year's budget. And it calls for staffing at 842 staff, which is a 1.9% decrease in the number of staff for our agency. Our budget is based on the Mayor's priorities that you know and have heard, I'm sure, many times as 4 priorities, but we're trying to move more families into self-sufficiency by addressing their unique needs. We're moving additional residents into permanent housing. We're concentrating on services integration and cross-systems work because we do not operate the Department of Human Services in isolation. Creatively using our programs to prevent the need for other services, especially preventing the need for child welfare and the involvement of our clients in the criminal and juvenile justice systems, and reinvesting our limited resources into better outcomes, because we know that the good outcomes are a lot cheaper in the long run than the bad outcomes that so often we've seen in the past. Just to get to some of the big issues that we've heard so much about today, we are trying to preserve as much of the homeless continuum as possible. For 2011, our current fiscal year was funded with local appropriation dollars, a lot of one-time federal funding, especially for permanent supportive housing, and one-time federal TANF emergency contingency funds. Many of those funds are no longer available, and to make up for that loss, the mayor has recommended an increase of $14 million in local funds. We'll also spend about $2 million less in permanent supportive housing case management. This is a program efficiency rather than a cut. And we're expecting to move about $4 million of our rental subsidy cost into permanent supportive housing programs from local DHS funds to either federal housing choice vouchers or local rental supplement programs. That way we avoid using local dollars and transfer some of those costs to the federal government. Now, it's been widely publicized that the Department of Human Services will lose approximately $26.7 million in this one-time federal funding. With the additional funds that we've received in the mayor's proposed budgets, we still face a shortfall that we've projected, and in many of the original papers we submitted was $20.5 million, and that's what you've been hearing all day, is a $20 million shortfall. We think, especially with the reduction in program efficiencies, we can comfortably say that that shortfall is $18.5 million. So we've been looking at ways to modify or reduce that hit, but it's still $18.5 million is what we feel is the shortfall in the housing programs. We don't know exactly where those shortfalls would hit. We want to really bring a lot more of our stakeholders into the process. Today we heard so much and got some additional guidance. But even though we don't know exactly where those shortfalls would come, we do know that there are certain programs that are either mandatory or, even based on today's testimony and other input, we feel have the highest priority. Certainly the high priority of the hypothermia shelter for all of our citizens is the very important part of what we're trying to maintain. We're also trying to prioritize housing for homeless families, including temporary and domestic violence shelters, site-based transitional housing, and the operation of the Virginia Williams Family Resource Center. Housing programs where, and finally, housing programs where clients receive rental subsidies, such as in the permanent supportive housing programs. Now, if those were the programs that we all finally agree on are the priorities, that means that the biggest cuts will come in the shelters that operate during the non-hypothermia season, especially for single adults. So that's with that type of prioritization, we would expect that the total funding available under the proposed budget is $58.8 million. The total funding, the total funding to meet the priorities that I just described is $58.8 million. The total funding in the budget is only $59.4, only $600,000 left for the rest of the continuum. So if we were to, again, fully fund the priority areas, the kinds of cuts that we would be seeing would be the DC General family shelter capacity could, outside of hypothermia season, would be cut about $7.1 million. The operation of the shelter for single homeless adults outside of the hypothermia season, approximately $10.3 million. Transportation services outside of the hypothermia season, $1.1 million. Outreach outside of hypothermia, approximately $200,000. In ancillary services such as feeding programs, medical clinics, etc., for about $400,000. And Chairman Graham, you asked for is clear of an identification of where the cuts would have to come, and again, these aren't cut or set in steel, but these, if we funded the highest priority programs, these are what would be left for cutting. So to go on, we have one of the reasons why we want to continue this permanent supportive housing programs that you've heard about so much today is that it's been shown to be highly effective. A lot of shelter programs are absolutely crucial, but they rarely or often do not result in our clients being able to move forward. With the permanent supportive housing, there's a much greater likelihood that they'll actually be able to deal with issues of employment, of medical care, mental health services and all. It's awfully hard to deal with those in a shelter base, and the permanent supportive housing is just vitally important for the clients and for them to be able to succeed in all of those domains of their life. Would like to say that as I know we're under a time frames, the interim disability assistance program was also mentioned as an item of great concern. Again, this program has been suspended for new enrollees, and the payments to the current recipients is proposed to end on September 30th. We expect approximately 1,040 recipients to be remaining in that program as of September 30th. So that's how many people would have their checks cease at that time. We will, if that happens, and when that happens, continue to work with those individuals to try to get them onto the SSI and to provide whatever supportive and community services that we can refer them to, but it would be that hit of $270, I believe it is, a month for those remaining recipients. We also are looking at our POWER program recipients. Have shown that many POWER program recipients are or should be eligible for SSI. One of the enhancements in our program is to add 9 FTEs that would allow us to work much more effectively with the recipients on that program to get them into the federal SSI program. These are families. This is not the single recipients that are in the interim disability program, but for the ones that where the parent usually is eligible or should be eligible for SSI. We think that we can save district dollars and by having a much more focused and intensive effort in moving them onto the federal program. Again, they get more money under that program, and they also it saves the district money by transferring the expense to the federal government. We do want to preserve as another priority, and I know I'm moving fast, but preserve the core functions of the social network for all TANF programs. You do know, and you've heard a lot of testimony about the fact that we did roll back a 20% decrease in the benefits for the recipients that have been on assistance for over 5 years, and another 25% reduction as of October 1st in those benefits. This does provide a savings of $3 million in, $4.9 million in savings. Again, if those were restored, that money would be have to come from someplace. And the mayor and all of you, I know, are faced with very, very tough choices. These are not programs that any of us feel are bad programs. It's just that if not this, what? And so the recommendation is that we move forward with that. And I would say that it's my intent, and as I've been here 9 days, I've looked and seen some opportunities for us to change our focus in the way that we serve not only those recipients, but all recipients in the TANF program. I believe that we've had too much focus in the past, and this is based on extensive experience that I've had in TANF programs in several states. Too much emphasis on trying to meet federal work requirements and jam people into programs and services that they don't necessarily benefit from. And it's my philosophy, and I believe one that really has shown to be very effective, is to have the clients design their own work plans, their own services plans, and if a family's involved with the child welfare program, that their child welfare plan should be their work plan, because they'll never be able to be successful for work until they can address their other family issues. Now, part of the child welfare plan should be to help them get employment if that's what they're intending to do. So what we're working on is unified case plans, opportunities for our clients to take the lead in designing what they need to be involved in, opportunities for clients to say, yes, maybe I can get a job for 5 or 10 hours a week, but I want to spend the rest of my time in working on getting school. And we find that people that do it simultaneously end up with much more chance of being employed than those who do it sequentially. So one philosophy with TANF was get a job and then you can go back to school. Another philosophy was go to school and then maybe you can get a job. But really the research shows that those that can do both of them, a small part-time job, especially if they're on TANF, they end up with the income disregards, with more money, more resources, and work experience at the time that they complete educational or training programs. So I want to be moving more forward with those kinds of approaches. Part of our program redesign in the TANF program is in enhanced customer assessments, a TANF universal delivery model, meaning that we'll be using a lot of different aspects of the community programs to support our customers, removal of barriers, skill development, client choice, client leadership, and full community development of all of the resources. We think that we can move forward with many, many initiatives simultaneously, and that although not all of these are currently in place now, where we have contracts pending and opportunities to be able to develop in the next few months that will greatly improve the chance of our consumers being able to be self-sufficient and to move forward in the way that they really are driving and want to move forward. There is a tightening of certain eligibility screening that is put into our budget. It isn't a savings in our budget, but rather than in the Medicaid budget of $11.7 million that we get. We're asking for 15 FTEs, and the mayor has recommended 15 additional FTEs to help us with these improved eligibility screenings and make sure that everybody that is drawing benefits, and especially benefits that are often 100% local money, are actually recipients and living in the district. With that, I'll just conclude saying that we think we know that the budget requires a great amount of thought, that there's things that are cut that none of us would really want to cut in better economic times. We've tried to set priorities. The mayor's tried to set priorities, and we will use the many resources that you've already given to us in the most effective manner that we can, and continue to work with our customers in the community to improve our system and deliver the best possible supports for our most vulnerable population. So thank you.